The book of Yashar, Jasher, chapter 88. And it was after the death of Moshe that Yahuwah said to Yahusha, the son of Nun, saying, Rise up and pass the Jordan to the land which I have given to the children of Yashar, and you shall make the children of Yashar inherit the land. Every place upon which the sole of your feet shall tread shall belong to you, from the wilderness of Lebanon unto the great river, the river of Perath, shall be your boundary. No man shall stand up against you all the days of your life. As I was with Moshe, so will I be with you. Only be strong and of good courage to observe all the Torah, which Moshe commanded you. Turn not from the way, either to the right or to the left, in order that you may prosper in all that you do. And Yahusha commanded the officers of Yashar, saying, Pass through the camp, and command the people, saying, Prepare for yourselves provisions, for in 3 days more you will pass the Jordan to possess the land. And the officers of the children of Yashar did so, and they commanded the people, and they did all that Yahusha had commanded. And Yahusha sent 2 men to spy out the land of Jericho. And the men went and spied out Jericho. And at the end of 7 days they came to Yahusha in the camp and said to him, Yahuwah has delivered the whole land into our hand, and the inhabitants thereof are melted with fear because of us. And it came to pass after that Yahusha rose up in the morning, and all Yashar with him. And they journeyed from Shittim, and Yahusha and all Yashar with him passed the Jordan. And Yahusha was 82 years old when he passed the Jordan with Yashar. And the people went up from the Jordan on the 10th day of the first month, and they encamped in Gilgal at the eastern corner of Jericho. And the children of Yashar kept the Pesach in Gilgal, in the plains of Jericho, on the 14th day at the month, as it is written in the Torah of Moshe. And the manna ceased at that time on the morrow of the Pesach, and there was no more manna for the children of Yashar, and they ate of the produce of the land of Canaan. And Jericho was entirely closed against the children of Yashar. No one came out or went in. And it was in the 2nd month, on the 1st day of the month, that Yahuwah said to Yahusha, Rise up, behold, I have given Jericho into your hand, with all the people thereof. And all your fighting men shall go round the city once each day. Thus shall you do for 6 days. And the priests shall blow upon shofars. And when you shall hear the sound of the shofar, all the people shall give a great shouting, that the walls of the city shall fall down. All the people shall go up, every man against his opponent. And Yahusha did so, according to all that Yahuwah had commanded him. And on the 7th day they went round the city 7 times, and the priests blew upon the shofars. And at the 7th round Yahusha said to the people, Shout, for Yahuwah has delivered the whole city into our hands. Only the city and all that it contains shall be accursed to Yahuwah. And guard yourselves from the accursed thing, lest you make the camp of Yashar accursed and trouble it. But all the silver and gold and brass and iron shall be consecrated to Yahuwah. They shall come into the treasury of Yahuwah. And the people blew upon shofars and made a great shouting, and the walls of Jericho fell down, and all the people went up, every man straight before him. And they took the city and utterly destroyed all that was in it, both man and woman, young and old, ox and sheep and ass, with the edge of the sword. And they burned the whole city with fire. Only the vessels of silver and gold and brass and iron they put into the treasury of Yahuwah. And Yahusha swore at that time, saying, Cursed be the man who builds Jericho. He shall lay the foundation thereof in his firstborn, and in his youngest son shall he set up the gates thereof. And Achan, the son of Carmi, the son of Zavdi, the son of Zerach, son of Yehuda, dealt treacherously in the accursed thing. And he took of the accursed thing, and hid it in the tent, and the anger of Yahuwah was kindled against Yashar. And it was after that, when the children of Yashar had returned from burning Jericho, Yahusha sent men to spy out also and to fight against it. And the men went up and spied out and they returned and said, Let not all the people go up with you to only let about 3,000 men go up and smite the city, for the men thereof are but few. And Yahusha did so. And there went up with him of the children of Yasharal about 3,000 men, and they fought against the men of Ai. And the battle was severe against Yasharal, and the men of Ai smote 36 men of Yasharal. And the children of Yasharal fled from before the men of Ai. And when Yahusha saw this thing, he tore his garments and fell upon his face to the ground before Yahuwah, he with the elders of Yasharal, and they put dust upon their heads. And Yahusha said, Why, O Yahuwah, did you bring this people over the Jordan? What shall I say after Yasharal has turned their backs against their enemies? Now therefore all the Canaanite inhabitants of the land will hear this thing and surround us and cut off our name. And Yahuwah said to Yahusha, Why do you fall upon your face? Rise, get you off, for Yasharal has sinned and taken of the accursed thing. I will no more be with them unless they destroy the accursed thing from amongst them. And Yahusha rose up and assembled the people and brought the Urim by the order of Yahuwah. And the tribe of Yehuda was taken, and Achan, the son of Carmi, was taken. And Yahusha said to Achan, Tell me, my son, what have you done? And Achan said, I saw amongst the spoil a goodly garment of Shinar, and 200 shekels of silver, and a wedge of gold of 50 shekels of weight. I coveted them and took them, and behold, they are all hid in the earth, in the midst of the tent. And Yahusha sent men who went and took them from the tent of Achan, and they brought them to Yahusha. And Yahusha took Achan and these utensils, and his sons and daughters, and all belonging to him, and they brought them into the valley of Achor. And Yahusha burned them with fire. And all Yasharal stoned Achan with stones, and they raised over him a heap of stones. Therefore did he call that place the valley of Achor. So Yahuwah's anger was appeased, and Yahusha afterward came to the city and fought against it. And Yahuwah said to Yahusha, Fear not, neither be dismayed. Behold, I have given into your hand her king and her people, and you shall do unto them as you did to Jericho and her king. Only the spoil thereof and the cattle thereof shall you take for a prey for yourselves, lay an ambush for the city behind it. So Yahusha did according to the word of Yahuwah, and he chose from amongst the sons of war 30,000 valiant men, and he sent them, and they lay an ambush for the city. And he commanded them, saying, When you shall see us, we will flee from before them with cunning, and they will pursue us. You shall then rise out of the ambush and take the city. And they did so. And Yahusha fought, and the men of the city went out toward Yashar, not knowing that they were lying in ambush for them behind the city. And Yahusha and all Yashar feigned themselves wearied out before them, and they fled by the way of the wilderness with cunning. And the men of Ai gathered all the people who were in the city to pursue Yashar, and they went out and were drawn away from the city. Not one remained, and they left the city opened and pursued Yashar. And those who were lying in ambush rose up out of their places and hastened to come to the city, and took it, and set it on fire. And the men of Ai turned back, and behold, the smoke of the city ascended to the skies, and they had no means of retreating, either one way or the other. And all the men of Ai were in the midst of Yashar, some on this side and some on that side, and they smote them, so that no one of them remained. And the children of Yashar took Melosh, king of Ai, alive, and they brought him to Yahusha, and Yahusha hanged him on a tree, and he died. And the children of Yashar returned to the city after having burned it, and they smote all those that were in it with the edge of the sword. And the number of those that had fallen of the men of Ai, both man and woman, was 12,000. Only the cattle and the spoil of the city they took to themselves, according to the word of Yahuwah to Yahusha. And all the kings on this side of the Jordan, all the kings of Canaan, heard of the evil which the children of Yashar had done in Jericho and to Ai. And they gathered themselves together to fight against Yashar. Only the inhabitants of Givon were greatly afraid of fighting against Yashar, lest they should perish. So they acted cunningly, and they came to Yahusha and to all Yashar, and they said unto them, We have come from a distant land, now therefore cut a covenant with us. And the inhabitants of Givon overreached the children of Yashar, and the children of Yashar cut a covenant with them, and they made peace with them. And the princes of the assembly swore unto them, but afterward the children of Yashar knew that they were neighbors to them, and were dwelling amongst them. But the children of Yashar slew them not, for they had sworn to them by Yahuwah, and they became hewers of wood and drawers of water. And Yahusha said to them, Why did you deceive me to do this thing to us? And they answered him, saying, Because it was told to your servants all that you had done to all the kings of the Amorim, and we were greatly afraid of our lives, and we did this thing. And Yahusha appointed them on that day to hew wood and to draw water, and he divided them for slaves to all the tribes of Yashar. And when Adonai Sedek, king of Yerushalayim, heard all that the children of Yashar had done to Jericho and to Ai, he sent to Hoham, king of Chevron, and to Piram, king at Yarmouth, and to Yaphia, king of Lachish, and to Devir, king of Eglon, saying, Come up to me and help me, that we may smite the children of Yashar and the inhabitants of Givon, who have made peace with the children of Yashar. And they gathered themselves together, and the 5 kings of the Amorim went up with all their camps, a mighty people, numerous as the sand of the seashore. And all the kings came and encamped before Givon, and they began to fight against the inhabitants of Givon. And all the men of Givon sent to Yahusha, saying, Come up quickly to help us. For all the kings of the Romiyim have gathered together to fight against us. And Yahusha and all the fighting people went up from Gilgal, and Yahusha came suddenly to them, and smote these 5 kings with a great slaughter. And Yahuwah confounded them before the children at Yashar, who smote them with a terrible slaughter in Givon, and pursued them along the way that goes up to Bet-choron unto Mattacah. And they fled from before the children of Yashar. And while they were fleeing, Yahuwah sent upon them hailstones from Shamayim, heaven, and more of them died by the hailstones than by the slaughter of the children of Yashar. And the children of Yashar pursued them, and they still smote them in the road, going on and smiting them. And when they were smiting, the day was declining toward evening, and Yahusha said in the sight of all the people, Sun, stand you still upon Givon, and you, moon, in the valley of Ayalon, until the nation shall have revenged itself upon its enemies. And Yahuwah hearkened to the voice of Yahusha, and the sun stood still in the midst of the Shamayim oath, heavens. And it stood still 36 moments. And the moon also stood still, and hastened not to go down the whole day. And there was no day like that, before it or after it, that Yahuwah hearkened to the voice of a man, for Yahuwah fought for Yashar. Chapter 89. Then spoke Yahusha this song on the day that Yahuwah had given the Romiyim into the hand of Yahusha and the children of Yashar. And he said in the sight of all Yashar, You have done mighty things, O Yahuwah. You have performed great deeds. Who is like unto you? My lips shall sing to your name, my goodness and my fortress, my high tower. I will sing a new song unto you. With thanksgiving I will sing to you. You are the strength of my Yeshua, salvation. All the kings of the earth shall praise you. The princes of the world shall sing to you. The children of Yashar shall rejoice in your Yeshua. They shall sing and praise your power. To you, O Yahuwah, did we confide. We said, You are our Elohim, for you were our shelter and strong tower against our enemies. To you we cried, and were not ashamed. In you we trusted, and were delivered. When we cried unto you, you did hear our voice. You did deliver our beings, our souls, from the sword. You did show unto us your favor. You did give unto us your Yeshua. You did rejoice our hearts with your strength. You did go forth for our Yeshua. With your arm you did redeem your people. You did answer us from the Shamayim oath of your holiness, Kodashah. You did save us from 10,000s of people. The sun and moon stood still in Shamayim, and you did stand in your wrath against our oppressors, and did command your judgments over them. All the princes of the earth stood up. The kings of the nations had gathered themselves together. They were not moved at your presence. They desired your battles. You did rise against them in your anger, and you did bring down your wrath upon them. You did destroy them in your anger and cut them off in your heart. Nations have been consumed with your fury. Kingdoms have declined because of your wrath. You did wound kings in the day of your anger. You did pour out your fury upon them. Your wrathful anger took hold of them. You did turn their iniquity upon them and did cut them off in their wickedness. They did spread a trap. They fell therein. In the net they hid. Their foot was caught. Your hand was ready for all your enemies, who said, through their sword they possessed the land. Though their arm they dwelt in the city. You did fill their faces with shame. You did bring their horns down to the ground. You did terrify them in your wrath, and did destroy them in your anger. The earth trembled and shook at the sound of your storm over them. You did not withhold their beings from death, and did bring down their lives to Sheol. You did pursue them in your storm. You did consume them in your whirlwind. You did turn their rain into hail. They fell in deep pits, so that they could not rise. Their carcasses were like rubbish cast out in the middle of streets. They were consumed and destroyed in your anger. You did save your people with your might. Therefore our hearts rejoice in you. Our souls, our beings, exult in your Yeshua. Our tongues shall relate your might, and we will sing and praise your wondrous works. For you did save us from our enemies. You did deliver us from those who rose up against us. You did destroy them from before us and depress them beneath our feet. Thus shall your enemies perish, O Yahuwah, and the wicked shall be like chaff driven by the wind, and your beloved shall be like trees planted by the waters. So Yahusha and all Yasharal with him returned to the camp in Gilgal, after having smitten all the kings, so that not a remnant was left of them. And the 5 kings fled alone on foot from battle, and hid themselves in a cave. And Yahusha sought for them in the field of battle, and did not find them. And it was afterward told to Yahusha, saying, the kings are found, and behold, they are hidden in a cave. And Yahusha said, appoint men to be at the mouth of the cave, to guard them, lest they take themselves away. And the children of Yasharal did so. And Yahusha called to all Yasharal and said to the officers of battle, place your feet upon the necks of these kings. And Yahusha said, so shall Yahuwah do to all your enemies. And Yahusha commanded afterward that they should slay the kings and cast them into the cave, and to put great stones at the mouth of the cave. And Yahusha went afterward with all the people that were with him on that day to Makkedah, and he smote it with the edge of the sword, and he utterly destroyed the souls, the beings, and all belonging to the city. And he did to the king and people thereof as he done to Jericho. And he passed from there to Livnah, and he fought against it, and Yahuwah delivered it into his hand. And Yahusha smote it with the edge of the sword, and all the beings thereof. And he did to it, and the king thereof, as he had done to Jericho. And from there he passed on to Lachish to fight against it. And Horam, the king of Gaza, went up to assist the men of Lachish. And Yahusha smote him and his people until there was none left to him. And Yahusha took Lachish and all the people thereof, and he did to it as he had done to Livnah. And Yahusha passed from there to Eglon, and he took that also, and he smote it and all the people thereof with the edge of the sword. And from there he passed to Chevron, and fought against it, and took it, and utterly destroyed it. And he returned from there with all Yasharal to Debir, and fought against it, and smote it with the edge of the sword. And he destroyed every being in it, soul in it. He left none remaining, and he did to it and the king thereof as he done to Jericho. And Yahusha smote all the kings of the Amorim from Kadesh Barnea to Gaza, and he took their country at once. For Yahuwah had fought for Yasharal, and Yahusha with all Yasharal came to the camp to Gilgal, when at that time Yavin, king of Chatzor, heard all that Yahusha had done to the kings of the Amorim. Yavin sent to Yavat, king of Midian, and Lavan, king of Shimron, to Yephal, king of Ashkaf, and to all the kings of the Amorites, saying, Come quickly to us and help us, that we may smite the children of Yasharal before they come up upon us, and do unto us as they have done to the other kings of the Amorim. And all these kings hearkened to the words of Yavin, king of Chatzor, and they went forth with all their camps. 17 kings, and their people were as numerous as the sand of the seashore, together with horses and chariots innumerable. And they came and pitched together at the waters of Merom, and they were met together to fight against Yasharal. And Yahuwah said to Yahusha, Fear them not, for tomorrow about this time I will deliver them up, all slain before you. You shall howl their horses and burn their chariots with fire. And Yahusha with all the men of war came suddenly upon them and smote them, and they fell into their hands, for Yahuwah had delivered them into the hands of the children of Yasharal. So the children of Yasharal pursued all these kings with their camps, and smote them until there was none left of them. And Yahusha did to them as Yahuwah had spoken to him. And Yahusha returned at that time to Chatzor, and smote it with the sword, and destroyed every being in it, and burned it with fire. And from Chatzor Yahusha passed to Shimron, and smote it, and utterly destroyed it. From there he passed to Askaf, and he did to it as he had done to Shimron. From there he passed to Adullam, and he smote all the people in it. And he did to Adullam as he had done to Askaf and to Shimron. And he passed from them to all the cities of the kings which he had smitten. And he smote all the people that were left of them, and he utterly destroyed them. Only their booty and cattle Yasharal took to themselves as a prey, but every man smote. They suffered not a being to live. As Yahuwah had commanded Moshe, so did Yahusha and all Yasharal. They failed not in anything. So Yahusha and all the children of Yasharal smote the whole land of Canaan, as Yahuwah had commanded them, and smote all their kings, being 31 kings. And the children of Yasharal took their whole country, besides the kingdoms of Chichon and Og, which are on the other side of the Jordan, of which Moshe had smitten many cities. And Moshe gave them to the Reuvenim and the Gadim, and to half the tribe of Manasseh. And Yahusha smote all the kings that were on this side of the Jordan to the west, and gave them for an inheritance to the 9 tribes, and to the half tribe of Yasharal. For 5 years did Yahusha carry on the war with these kings, and he gave their cities to Yasharal, and the land became tranquil from battle throughout the cities of the Amorim and the Canaanim. Chapter 90. At that time, in the 5th year, after the children of Yasharal had passed over the Jordan, after the children of Yasharal had rested from their war with the Canaanite. At that time, a great and severe battle. At that time, great and severe battles arose between Edom and the children of Kittim, and the children of Kittim fought against Edom. And Abinas, king of Kittim, went forth in that year, that is, in the 31st year of his reign, and a great force with him of the mighty men of the children of Kittim. And he went to Seir to fight against the children of Esau. And Hadad, the king of Edom, heard of his report, and he went forth to meet him with a heavy people and strong force, and engaged in battle with him in the field of Edom. And the hand of Kittim prevailed over the children of Esau. And the children of Kittim slew of the children of Esau 22,000 men, and all the children of Esau fled from before them. And the children of Kittim pursued them, and they reached Hadad, king of Edom, who was running before them, and they caught him alive, and brought him to Abinas, king of Kittim. And Abinas ordered him to be slain, and Hadad, king of Edom, died in the 48th year of his reign. And the children of Kittim continued their pursuit of Edom, and they smote them with a great slaughter. And Edom became subject to the children of Kittim, and the children of Kittim ruled over Edom. And Edom became under the hand of the children of Kittim, and became one kingdom from that day. And from that time they could no longer lift up their heads, and their kingdom became one with the children of Kittim. And Abinas placed officers in Edom, and all the children of Edom became subject and tributary to Abinas. And Abinas turned back to his own land, Kittim. And when he returned, he renewed his government, and built for himself a spacious and fortified palace for a royal residence, and reigned securely over the children of Kittim and over Edom. In those days, after the children of Yashar had driven away all the Canaanite and the Romiyim, Yahusha was old and advanced in years. And Yahuwah said to Yahusha, "You are old, advanced in life, and a great part of the land remains to be possessed. Now therefore divide this land for an inheritance to the 9 tribes and to the half-tribe of Manasseh." And Yahusha rose up and did as Yahuwah had spoken to him. And he divided the whole land to the tribes of Yashar as an inheritance according to their divisions. But to the tribe at Levi he gave no inheritance. The offerings of Yahuwah are their inheritance, as Yahuwah had spoken of them by the hand of Moshe. And Yahusha gave Mount Chevron to Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, one portion above his brethren, as Yahuwah had spoken through Moshe. Therefore Chevron became an inheritance to Caleb and his children unto this day. And Yahusha divided the whole land by lots to all Yasharal for inheritance, as Yahuwah had commanded him. And the children of Yasharal gave cities to the Leviim from their own inheritance, and suburbs for their cattle and property. As Yahuwah had commanded Moshe, so did the children of Yasharal. And they divided the land by lot, whether great or small. And they went to inherit the land according to their boundaries. And the children of Yasharal gave to Yahusha, the son of Nun, an inheritance amongst them. By the word of Yahuwah did they give to him the city which he required, Timnath, Cherach, and Mount Ephraim. And he built the city and dwelt therein. These are the inheritances which Eleazar the priest and Yahusha the son of Nun and the heads of the fathers of the tribes portioned out to the children of Yasharal by lot in Shiloh before Yahuwah at the door of the tabernacle. And they left off dividing the land. And Yahuwah gave the land to Yasharal, and they possessed it, as Yahuwah had spoken to them, and as Yahuwah had sworn to their ancestors. And Yahuwah gave to Yasharal rest from all their enemies round them, and no man stood up against them. And Yahuwah delivered all their enemies into their hands, and not one thing failed of all the good which Yahuwah had spoken to the children of Yasharal. Yea, Yahuwah performed everything. And Yahusha called to all the children of Yasharal, and he blessed them, and commanded them to serve Yahuwah. And he afterward sent them away, and they went each man to his city, and each man to his inheritance. And the children of Yasharal served Yahuwah all the days of Yahusha, and Yahuwah gave them rest from all around them, and they dwelt securely in their cities. And it came to pass in those days that Abinus, king of Kittim, died in the 38th year of his reign, that is, in the 7th year of his reign over Edom. And they buried him in his place which he had built for himself. And Latinus reigned in his stead 50 years. And during his reign he brought forth an army, and he went and fought against the inhabitants of Britannia and Carania, the children of Elisha, son of Yavan, and he prevailed over them and made them tributary. He then heard that Edom had revolted from under the hand of Kittim, and Latinus went to them and smote them and subdued them and placed them under the hand of the children of Kittim. And Edom became one kingdom with the children of Kittim all the days. And for many years there was no king in Edom, and their government was with the children of Kittim and their king. And it was in the 26th year after the children of Yasharal had passed the Jordan, that is, in the 66th year after the children of Yasharal had departed from Mitzrayim, that Yahusha was old, advanced in years, being 108 years old in those days. And Yahusha called to all Yasharal, to their elders, their judges and officers, after Yahuwah had given all Yasharal rest from all their enemies round about. And Yahusha said to the elders of Yasharal and to their judges, Behold, I am old, advanced in years, and you have seen what Yahuwah has done to all the nations whom he has driven away from before you. For it is Yahuwah who has fought for you. Now therefore strengthen yourselves to guard and to do all the words of the Torah of Moshe, not to deviate from it to the right or to the left, and not to come amongst those nations who are left in the land, neither shall you make mention of the name of their Elohim, but you shall cleave to Yahuwah Elohaka, as you have done to this day. And Yahusha greatly exhorted the children of Yasharal to serve Yahuwah all their days. And all Yasharal said, We will serve Yahuwah Alonihu all our days, and we and our children and our children's children and our seed forever. And Yahusha cut a covenant with the people on that day. And he sent away the children of Yasharal, and they went each man to his inheritance and to his city. And it was in those days, when the children of Yasharal were dwelling securely in their cities, that they buried the coffins of the tribes of their ancestors, which they had brought up from Mitzrayim, each man in the inheritance of his children. The 12 sons of Yaakov did the children of Yasharal bury, each man in the possession of his children. And these are the names of the cities wherein they buried the 12 sons of Yaakov, whom the children of Yasharal had brought up from Mitzrayim. And they buried Reuben and Gad on this side of the Jordan in Romiyim, which Moshe had given to their children. And Shimon and Levi they buried in the city Mauda, which he had given to the children of Shimon. And the suburb of the city was for the children of Levi. And Yehuda they buried in the city of Benjamin, opposite Bethlehem. And the bones of Yashar and Zebulun they buried in Sidon, in the portion which fell to their children. And Dan was buried in the city of his children, in Eshtael, and Naphtali and Asher they buried in Kadesh Naphtali, each man in his place which he had given to his children. And the bones of Yosef they buried in Shechem, in the part of the field which Yaakov had purchased from Chamor, and which became to Yosef for an inheritance. And they buried Benjamin in Jerusalem, opposite the Yevusi, which was given to the children of Benjamin. The children of Yasharal buried their fathers, each man in the city of his children. And at the end of 2 years, Yahusha, the son of Nun, died, 110 years old. And the time which Yahusha judged Yasharal was 28 years. And Yasharal served Yahuwah all the days of his life. And the other affairs of Yahusha, and his battles, and his reproofs, with which he reproved Yasharal, and all which he had commanded them, and the names of the cities which the children of Yasharal possessed in his days, behold, they are written in the Cepher of the words of Yahusha to the children of Yasharal, and in the Cepher of the wars of Yahuwah, which Moshe and Yahusha and the children of Yasharal had written. And the children of Yasharal buried Yahusha in the border of his inheritance, in Timnath Cherach, which was given to him in Mount Ephraim. And Eleazar, the son of Aharon, died in those days, and they buried him in a hill belonging to Pinachak, his son, which was given him in Mount Ephraim. Chapter 91. At that time, after the death of Yahusha, the children of the Canaanite were still in the land, and Yasharal resolved to drive them out. And the children of Yasharal asked of Yahuwah, saying, Who shall first go up for us to the Canaanite to fight against them? And Yahuwah said, Yehuda shall go up. And the children of Yehuda said to Shimon, Go up with us into our lot, and we will fight against the Canaanite, and we likewise will go up with you in your lot. So the children of Shimon went with the children of Yehuda, and the children of Yehuda went up and fought against the Canaanite. So Yehuda delivered the Canaanite into the hands of the children of Yehuda, and they smote them in Bezek, 10,000 men. And they fought with Adonai Bezek in Bezek, and he fled from before them. And they pursued him and caught him, and they took hold of him and cut off his thumbs and great toes. And Adonai Bezek said, 70 kings, having their thumbs and great toes cut off, gathered their meat under my table, as I have done. So Elohim has requited me. And they brought him to Yerushalayim, and he died there. And the children of Simeon, went with the children of Yehuda, and they smote the Canaanite with the edge of the sword. And Yahuwah with the children of Yehuda, and Yahuwah was with the children of Yehuda, and they possessed the mountain. And the children of Yosef went up to Bet-el, the same is Luz, and Yahuwah was with them. And the children of Yosef spied out Bet-el. And the watchmen saw a man going forth from the city, and they caught him and said unto him, Show us now the entrance of the city, and we will show kindness to you. And that man showed them the entrance of the city, and the children of Yosef came and smote the city with the edge of the sword. And the man with his family they sent away, and he went to Chittim, and he built a city, and he called the name thereof Luz. So all Yasharal dwelt in their cities, and the children at Yasharal dwelt in their cities. And the children of Yasharal served Yahuwah all the days of Yahusha, and all the days of the elders who had lengthened their days after Yahusha, and saw the great work of Yahuwah, which he had performed for Yasharal. And the elders judged Yasharal after the death of Yahusha for 17 years. And all the elders also fought the battles of Yasharal against the Canaanite, and Yahuwah drove the Canaanite from before the children of Yasharal in order to place Yasharal in their land. And he accomplished all the words which he had spoken to Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and the oath which he had sworn to give to them and to their children, the land of the Canaanite. And Yahuwah gave to the children of Yasharal the whole land of Canaan, as he had sworn to their ancestors. And Yahuwah gave them rest from those around them. And the children of Yasharal dwelt securely in their cities. Baruch, blessed be Yahuwah forever. Amen and Amen. Strengthen yourselves, and let the hearts of all you that trust in Yahuwah be of good courage. End of the book of Yashar, Jasher. Hallelujah.